Good morning. Uh, I'd like to go for a sleep on the bench if I could. No, but it's early in the morning. Sun's just getting up. Got to be in the shop here. I got to start assembling cabinets. So just started this today. For the cabinets, I got to go out in a couple of weeks. So I'm going to be putting these things together. But it's like one of these days, it's like, oh, you start early in the morning. It's like, it's so hard to get like fired up to get going. Especially because yesterday, I filled up the dust collector a little too much again. Look at that. Oh, I hate myself when I do that because that's going to be dusty. Anyways, I'm going to assemble right here because I have a perfect view of what I have to do, and it's one of these things, if I see it constantly, I might actually do it. Anyways, I want to show you how I assemble these cabinets. These are base lower cabinets, so it's very similar to this one here. I'm going to be having a drawer on the top and then a door below, and it's going to get one of those garbage pullouts, which I might film out later. All right, so here's what I do. What I like to do is get all my hardware installed into my cabinets before I assemble, just because I don't want to be on my hands and knees putting cabinets together, let alone putting hardware together. So I like having stuff nicely in my, just right here, like right where I am. So I've made this jig here, and I took a video of how to make this one a couple of weeks ago. But I basically got a top drawer. If I've got a 4-drawer or 3-drawer unit, I drill these holes. I drill these holes, oh, sorry, for these ones, this is for a 4-drawer unit, 3-drawer unit, 4-drawer unit, and then the bottom track here. So this is the configuration that I like using. I've actually got 2 different configurations that I use. This one I like using when people want a bit of a higher top drawer. So basically it goes 6 and 7/8, 6 and 7/8, 6 and 7/8, and 9 at the bottom if you're doing 4 drawers. So that's kind of how I work it. And the reason I work it that way is in kitchens that don't have a lot of upper cabinets, you need a place to put your coffee cups and that kind of thing. And a coffee cup will fit in a drawer with that configuration. It'll just slide in there. Not the real big tall cups, but the average coffee cup will fit in there. So that's the reason I use that configuration. So anyways, I've got this jig. I've got all my plywood already edged here, and it's trimmed. And I've got a groove in the back for my back of my cabinet. So what I do is I line this up, put this on the bottom. Okay, and see, I don't have a CNC machine to do this, but I need to have something that repeats my my standard all the time. So I've made this thing. This is a centering bit from Miles Craft. It's spring loaded, as you can see, and it's got a 5mm drill bit in there, and that's key. So all I want to do is I want to drill 2 holes for my drawer track. Okay. And all I want is I want to be able to put my undermount track in here. And let me just put 1 screw here, and I'll show you what I mean. Okay, so there you have it. Okay, I'm going to put the other ones in a second, but it centers here. I've got it sitting at the far back and at the far back here. So I know that when I put these tracks in, I always put it, like there's multiple holes, but I put it in the back, and I know that every single time. So I can't get confused because I want this here, okay, at 11/16. So from the start of my track to here is 11/16. And when I do that, if I'm using a 5/8 drawer box in thickness, I know that this is going to be almost flush with this right here at 11/16. So I think that's 18 millimeters back. And that seems to be the sweet spot for these Salici tracks that I use. I think it's the same for Blum as well. And Headache. As you can see, I'm not a really big fan of Headache hinges. All right, so I got that done here. And then what I do is I just finish it out with little 5/8 screws. Okay. And what you want to do when you're putting these in is you want 4 screws in the back and 4 screws in the front. Okay, so that'll give you 8 in total. And if you put 8 in there or more, but I found with 8, that's kind of the minimum that you want, where you're not going to have your drawer basically come kind of loose in this. Like as you open and close drawers, it tends to flex the track a bit, and if you only put 2 screws in here, well, in about a year, you're going to go back and put a whole pile more. So 8 is kind of the magic number. All right, so I got that done. Okay, and that's my left-hand side. Now I want my right-hand side. Okay, so you take your jig and you flip it over. As you can see, it's got a T-track in there, so all I got to do is put it like this. Go at the bottom. The bottom. But by doing it like this, you can get the same precision that you're going to do out of a CNC. Might take you a little bit longer, but not that much. Okay, so put the track in there. And you can see I'm using these 5mm system screws. Okay, and I just picked them up from my hardware supplier. Didn't drill that one deep enough, so let me just finish that out. There we are. Okay, so where am I? Ah, here we are. As you can see, I've got lots of different drills going on here at one time. It's just I don't like switching bits out, even if they're those quick change ones. Yeah, not liking it, so I prefer it this way. And here's the thing, I like these small little drills for doing hardware because they're nice and light. Like that's a good sized drill. Like this one's only a 14, an old 14 and 14 volt, but these ones are just 12s, and I've had these things for years. But they're really handy for this type of work. Like, not saying that you can't use an 18 volt, but after you've assembled a whole kitchen with an 18 volt drill, you'll be thinking differently about that. All right, so there we have it. So I have not beveled the inside of this at all, okay? And here's the reason why. When I put my bottom in, the bottom of my cabinet right here, I want this to be butted right up against that flush side. But I do want my bottom to be beveled slightly, so when you put your hands against it, it doesn't get bruised or cut or whatever. Okay, so this is 1mm edging, so I just take my hand plane, just run it twice, and I get a nice soft bevel on that. So I've got a couple of rails. I got a bottom rail here and a top rail. Same thing, do the both sides. Doesn't have to be much, just enough so that when your hand goes over it, that it doesn't get cut. All right, so put this together here. All right, so I'm using 18 gauge 1¼ nails. Okay, so this is only to put the thing together. It's not meant to nail it and leave it. This was meant only just to position the thing into place. And here's why. So, I don't know if you can see this, but you can see it's just a little bit proud here, and I want that flush. Okay, so there might have been something underneath, or the plywood's cut just slightly different. Okay, there we are. So that's now nicely flush. And I'm hitting it with a drill countersink combo. There we have it. Okay, so I just put 3 in there, and that's enough to do it. Now here's the key. These screws right here, okay, that is what we call a number 6. So a number 8 is the shank on here is bigger, fatter. It's 1 3/4 inches long, which is important because that gives me 1 inch of penetration into my bottom, and that is just enough to hold your cabinets together. Anything longer, I find it's just not necessary anymore. All right, so I'll fire these in. Okay. And so when you're using a screw like that 1 1/4 inches, or sorry, that 1 3/4 inches number 6, it doesn't pucker up the wood, the plywood in here. Like, I am countersinking it, that's true. But at the same time, when that screw goes in, it still tends to push out. But at a number 6, it does it so minimally that you're never going to see it puckering the wood on this side. If you've ever assembled cabinets before, you may have actually seen that if you haven't pre-drilled your hole, that you'll see a little bit of a pucker. There you are. So I try to put on average 15 minutes for an assembly of a cabinet. 15-20 minutes is kind of normal. Like larger cabinets, bigger drawer packs and that kind of thing, yeah, require a bit more time. So now that I got my bottom in here, these are my spreader rails that I want to go in here. Okay, so all I do is I push it up tight against my drawer track and just fire a nail in it. Okay. Top. Yeah. I had better eyesight, that would be good. But I have glasses, but I'm in that river in Egypt denial. There we go. So that's done there, you can see that. And my background. So same thing, you got those nails in there, you can just tap things back and forth a little bit. Okay. Make sure you get everything the way you want it. It's all nice and flush. There we go. And then that can be all screwed together like that. So, now that that's done, don't forget, I did this edge, this edge, this edge, this edge, and that edge. Now I want to do just this inside edge, and all you got to do is just run your file. Okay. down that edge. Just want to break it slightly. Just enough to get it a bit smooth, a little bit of sandpaper, and it's done. And even where, like on the outside edge, I'm just doing it just slightly because this thing's going to be put up against another cabinet, but it's only for my hands when I'm carrying this thing around. Okay? So the last thing I want to do, okay, I'm going to screw this together in a second, but I want to put these on there, on the bottom, right here. Okay, these are nylon glides, and the only reason I like using these things is so that when they're sliding around in the floor of my shop, that I don't damage my edging. Because if you rip off a corner of your edging, well, you have to redo it, and that's a lot of time. So these things cost, probably like 5–10 cents each, and well worth the money. The other thing, they're reusable. But see, okay, that's how easy those things work. So there you have it. Cabinet's assembled. I'll finish out with the screwing of this thing, but it's ready to go. Now you can see that it's still got some tip in it, like this. Okay. But when I put that back inside that cabinet, I make sure that I make my backs almost perfect. So when I slide that back in there, it squares up that cabinet, and I'll test it corner to corner just to make sure that everything is square that way before I actually finish the assembly. But that there is the easiest way to assemble a cabinet. You don't have to use biscuits. You don't have to use dowels. You just screw the thing together. And when I put my leveler leg underneath there, it's actually going to be bearing on this gable. So all the weight is not going to be on this bottom, but it's going to be on the gable. So everything transfers all the way straight down. And the reason they use dowels for assembling cabinets is just because it goes faster in a production. If you've got a case clamp where you can assemble these cabinets and you can put them together, and it's kind of idiot proof for the guy that's assembling it. But trust me, when you put cabinets together this way, I can get a better quality job because I can make sure that all of my intercepting joints here are perfect, and it actually looks better. But that's the thing, when you're making custom cabinets, you can make these little slight adjustments to make things look better. And you don't need to have a ton of equipment to make this stuff. All right. So here's the same deal for doing cabinets with doors as opposed to drawers. So my jig here, I've got my holes set up for my system screw. All right. Okay, I've got my clips. See, if you put your hardware on before, you're not having to reach inside that cabinet to do it later. I'm telling you, it's a time saver, and it keeps your back from falling apart. Anyways, do this. It will save you a ton of time. One more tip here. When you're putting your top rail on here, make sure that you have this thing crown up, going this way. And here's the reason. If you have it crowned down, and you're putting a granite top or quartz or whatever it is, they will not fix your belly. It has to be this way. If the weight is going down, it'll make it flat. If it's going this way, it's going to stay that way. The customer looks up above and you got that little curve in there. Not so good. So always make sure it's crown up on all your rails. Just do it for all of them. It's just going to make your life easy. But always crown up on your rails.